office hour. we got it all tuned in.
Another week, another office hours. Um, the weather in Texas is weird and a little bit rainy. How about you?
Yeah, we're back to cold. Like we last weekend we had some nice weather, and then it turned to like a little bit of snow, and now we're back in cold enough that the wood stove needs to be fired up to take the chill off. So
Excellent.
typical New England weather.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we can jump in. Let me bounce back over to the doc I had. So I know we're going to talk about currency, but I thought I'd share a little bit of a personal update in my life. As you know, Brenton, your kids get into something and something that you had no concept that was even a sport at middle schools becomes your entire life. So that's happened with our family. My son got into archery, and we'd heard that our middle school had an archery team. And we're like, what is that? Like, I can't even understand how archery is even a sport. And then we got into sixth grade and he went to like a shoot around, and we thought, oh man, this coach he seems like he's a pretty good guy, he's pretty motivational.
Okay.
We didn't know the half of it, right? So apparently like we've ended up in the spot where we're just super lucky and we have this amazing coach, and he's been like developing archery in Austin for several years now and growing it and growing it and growing it.
Okay.
And so our team went to the state championship this week. So on Tuesday, we all went down, watched it. So I've got some pictures to show so everybody can see what an archery competition looks like. It's when you watch archery as a sport, it's about it's like 4 hours of sitting around with, a solid 15 minutes of action that are related to what you care about. But
You actually have to do something for. Yeah.
it was in this huge exhibition hall. So this is like the bullseye, and there were 85 targets, and you have two archers on each target
Okay.
shooting at the same time. They shoot at 10 meters and then they shoot at 15 meters.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a cool sound because, like, once the whistle goes off to shoot, it's usually doom, doom, doo, 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 doo.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine that. That's cool.
Yeah. And
That's
go ahead.
how many teams are going at one time? So is it
Mm.
every target is a different school or team?
No, they're all mixed. So like our school is Lamar, this black shirt with purple, and then Keeling Middle School is another Austin school.
Okay.
And see how they're kind of intermingled. And this is
Yes.
actually unique. Like usually we go to tournaments and there will be a high schooler standing next to an elementary kid. It's
Oh, okay.
all um it's not like there's different, ranges or anything like that. They're all shooting the same distance, the same target with the same, in fact, the same bow. They change the tension on them as they get older, so they have a bit more accuracy as they get stronger, but they're all doing the
Okay.
same thing, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, it's 2 days and your time slot's an hour and a half. So like we had four teams show up actually. Like, I don't know if there's like 15 kids on each team. So like we have four teams that are showing up from just our school. And so that all happened. I took this picture to just get an idea of the scale. I think my son is actually somewhere down there. Um, so that's the bullseye. And then this is kind of this, it looks a little bit hokey, but it's like, it's super cool because this is a legitimate skill, right? That you could do things with. The
Sure.
world ends. You could defend
That's right.
yourself, feed yourself, or whatever. But yeah, they do the 3D where it seems like it's really hard because basically you shoot five arrows at the turkey and then you move over, you shoot five arrows at this. And
Oh, okay.
each animal, the target size is different, like a different scale. The animal's farther away, some of them are turned a little bit and so forth. So
That's awesome. That's cool. And so
Yeah.
each kid gets to shoot at all the different animals.
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger the animal, the further back. That's wild.
Yep.
Then just the sheer scale. That's a lot of arrows flying through the air.
Yeah. And so like so you shoot it's kind of like scoring's kind of like bowling in a way, like 300 is a perfect score.
Yep.
And so you shoot 5 arrows at 10 meters, five arrows at 10 meters and 5 meters. You do it 3 times, so you get up to 150. Then you move back, you go to 15 meters and you shoot five, five, five. And so like um a perfect score would be 300. Nobody got that at this tournament, but apparently our middle school is pretty good because we got the results in. We got first in
That
state
wow.
for one of our teams. Another one of our teams is ninth. We had the top boy with a
Wow.
score of 290. He's in seventh grade. We had the top two girls with
Wow.
291.
291.
So like swept it or whatever,
Yeah.
pretty
That's
crazy.
impressive.
So yeah, so we're pretty pumped, but we're gonna so the next thing is like, oh, okay, now we qualified 3 teams to go to nationals. So nationals are in Utah,
Oh,
in
cool.
Salt Lake City,
Okay.
which I didn't realize plane flights were expensive to Salt Lake City. I didn't, but apparently they are.
That's good to know.
So I'm thinking we're going to be going. They'll create the teams. We'll see.
Yeah.
But that would be in like April 21st. I guess it would be in a month. So
That's
it'll be
exciting.
pretty cool.
I remember getting a bow when I was in grade school, and I think the length of using the bow went as long as I could hold on to the arrows. We didn't have a great backdrop, right? So
Yes.
if you miss, it was deep in the woods, and you go hunt for them as much as you can. But in fall time, with all the oak leaves down, forget about it. They
Yeah, they're
disappear.
gone.
So
That's funny.
the quiver got smaller and smaller, and then yeah, it wasn't worth it at one point.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting how they do this at school where like weapons aren't allowed at school,
Right?
right? I mean,
Yeah.
but like they had a pep rally and they had some of the archers shoot during the pep rally, and they have all these rules like you bring a bow but you don't get the arrows, and somehow they figured out how to make it all work.
Okay.
But it's kind of wild, like
That's impressive. That's fun. That's fun to, watch your guy go through it and the team camaraderie and all. That's awesome.
it's super cool. It really shows you like what a difference a coach can make.
Yes.
I mean, well, because also he coaches the elementary school. They also got first.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
He's got the lesson plan down. That's great.
he does, man. He does.
Cool. Well, yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to the updates and watching that all go. That's fun. But so now we've got our opener. Now we'll dig into the meat of what we aim for our sessions, and that's a little bit of deal hub talk and what we've observed over the past couple of months, if not longer, is a lot of organizations having a conversation around currency and how to handle it in many ways, shapes, and form. So for today, I thought we could just have a general currency talk track. We'll talk about how currency can be done in Deal Hub. We'll touch on some general currency items as well. How CPQs or CRMs can assist with the process. And hopefully along the way we'll provide some pointers that are going to be helpful to everyone. So where I thought I'd start for our currency talk track is how currency is defined in proposals to typically. And regardless of the CRM, we could be talking about HubSpot, we can be talking about Salesforce. It typically starts at the deal or opportunity layer, right? Of course, there are a number of different ways you can restrict what a rep is able to select when it comes to currency, right? In Salesforce, you can make sure that any opportunities currency matches the accounts currency. So that way you can kind of standardize how proposals and everything will go. Um, and as we go along today, we'll definitely talk about, syncing data back to the CRM and what currency should it be in. There's different approaches. For example, in HubSpot, as soon as you turn on multi-currency, a couple of additional fields start popping up, and all of a sudden you can see, the net amount in the local currency and your company currency side by side. Is that difficult for reporting in some cases? Are there alternatives? And we'll touch on a couple of ways that we've seen organizations handle that. So I've built a little kind of slideshow presentation. We've already kind of touched on where the currencies are, um, and I'm defining the a proposal currency as, right, what currency you need to show on the order form, on any documentation sent to the customer. Um, and as we've already talked about, it's always related to the deal or the opportunity. And then typically the CPQ will pick up from there and just leverage whatever is already defined.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and that's especially true inside of CPQ like Deal Hub, because it actually doesn't provide you any options to change the currency so that it is disjointed from the dealer opportunity. It is directly in line and connected with what is selected.
It's almost like it builds on itself, right? Yeah. I do see feedback from reps at times in different companies, or even sales ops teams like, wait a minute, how do I change the currency on this proposal? And yeah, disjointed is the right word. Like if you changed it on the proposal, but you didn't change it on the opportunity, the world would fall apart, right? So
Oh, in so many ways. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And, one of the ways that gets disjointed in a way is when you're using the factors or exchange rates, right? So taking the amount that's usually, let's say, in US dollars for the list price of an item. And if you aren't using things like currency factors, then what happens in Deal Hub, for example, is it would still be a $10 item, but instead of a US dollar symbol in front of the price, all of a sudden it will have the British pounds symbol, or name your currency symbol. And so all of a sudden, talking about something as if it's 10 British pounds is much different than US dollars because of the conversion rates, right?
Right. Or
Um,
even worse, like a Japanese yen. I can't remember. It's like 100 to 1 or something. Yeah. Things could
right.
get wild.
What a deal. Yeah. Yes. And so, always thinking about the factors, and especially in a CPQ like Deal Hub, you do have to be mindful of, well, what fields even in the sales rep experience should be currency based or just numeric based. Because again, if you say that a field is currency based, and typically it's like, the unit price is going to be $10. Well, if you're enabling multi-currency and that field in the playbook is all of a sudden has a British pound symbol in front of it, that has very different meaning, even though the number value hasn't changed. So, different considerations that Deal Hub administrators always have to consider for a multi currency environment. And so the way that in Deal Hub this is handled, and I thought I'd kind of show a very quick demonstration of this, is that inside of Deal Hub there are this notion of list price factors, right? Any factor that should be applied on top of a price that would change the bottom line. And one of those things could be discounts, geo factors, but for today, obviously, we're going to focus in on currency. And the way that this system operates is that it always looks at the currency selected on the opportunity or the deal from HubSpot, for example. And if the currency symbol or shorthand matches, then you can define what's the value that you need to be defining. What multiply from US dollars by a factor in order to get the value in that currency. Um, And so this is how it's done in, in Deal Hub by default. We strongly recommend, and in all of our currency based implementations, to help with troubleshooting, because for a proposal you always want to be able to understand all the factors that are contributing to prices. If you only place the currency factors and exchange rates in this price factor area, when troubleshooting you have to jump between many different screens. But in our implementations, we like to always place the currency factors inside of the playbook itself. Here, I've set it so they're always visible just for demonstration purposes. But the moment you maybe change the currency in your opportunity to be British pounds, being able to easily reference what that currency factor is, which is typically going to be a hidden value that an administrator or somebody would be able to look at when troubleshooting. This will save hours when trying to sift through and find that needle in the haystack that's causing an issue. And so the nice thing is that with Deal Hub, we can actually reference a single question and make it so that even in the setup of the different currencies, it's simplified. You're not having to enter unique values in multiple locations, but instead you can always reference the core question that holds those exchange rates and factors, and that's like the one spot you have to worry about or look to. So that's definitely a learned implementation strategy that we've seen with countless accounts. And with this approach for the currencies, you're always going into a version in Deal Hub and then updating that currency factor probably on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on what currencies you're working with. Maybe if it's a more volatile currency, you'd want to be updating that weekly, right? It all depends on your strategies. But there are more advanced techniques and options available too, where maybe you're using automation, or maybe you want to actually pull those values from the CRM and land them in the CPQ system so that it streamlines the process further and makes it so that maybe only in Salesforce is the one location you have to define those factors, right? Now, there's some challenges with that. And Ryan, I don't want to steamroll the entire conversation. Any thoughts of what I've touched on so far?
No. I was just taking a few notes, but I'll kind of interject some thoughts here. Not only is there the currency exchange, but it's usually time based, right? There's a currency exchange last year that's different than the currency exchange this year, right? So,
Yes.
well, it is a dynamic exchange rate. It is relevant to that period of time. So, that's where you mentioned like versions. So you're setting the currency rate, you're activating the version next month. You set the currency rate, you activate a version. What DealHub does a good job of is if you've submitted the proposal and locked it, it'll continue to maintain that currency that was last month. Because if you gave somebody a proposal for $50 last month, it should be $50 again this month. Now, you can put expirations around it, which there's a reason for that, right? But you don't want it necessarily jumping all over the place all the time. So Salesforce gives you the ability to control currencies by time, managing them over different time periods. DealHub does the same thing. You do it through versions, through the price factors and so forth, like you're doing. So that was the
That's
only
right.
thing I was thinking about. It's like currency is like a can of worms. And I mean, this is a good talk to go through because it, I think often what happens is like you're working in a company that only sells USD, and then all of a sudden you're going to sell in one more currency. And so you solve the solution based on that narrow window. But like this conversation gives you an idea of like what's the breadth of what you should even just think about. You don't have to figure it all out right now, but you just have to be kind of mindful of these
That's
things.
right. Yes. Yes. And that's a great point. Actually, one organization we worked on a multi-currency implementation for, one of the major concerns or items that they focused on was reporting. in the CRM. They
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make sure that the numbers that are being reported on are continue to be in US dollars. And so the second you do multi-currency, a lot of decisions have to take place, right? Do you need multiple fields per unique metric so that you're always capturing what the your organization's preferred currency is compared to the quotes currency? Um, and as you saw even in that the opening where HubSpot automatically starts to add additional fields, um, if you're already in a position where your CRM is mature, your reporting strategies are mature, to have to all of a sudden rejigger all reports to support what you're looking at, that could be a little bit disruptive. So it's definitely an important thing to think through.
That's where like salesperson, CRO hires salesperson in new country and says, let's start quoting in this currency to feel like we're local. And it sounds so simple, right? In a Word
Yes.
doc, it is. But when all your systems are interconnected, it's complex for good reason. For good
Hmm.
reason, because it's making you think about all the implications. Whereas if you put it in a Word doc, you're not thinking about all the implications of what you're doing to the business. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, definitely plenty of challenges. There are definitely solutions in the marketplace to help with it too, though, right? The Salesforce ecosystem has different add-ons and apps that you can purchase to help with this all. You can leverage webhooks and consistently maybe pull the currency exchange rates that you're leveraging in your systems. Um, what we found, it most of the time the simple solution is the one you want to definitely start with. And so even just simply creating a field on every dealer opportunity and recording what was the currency factor, what was the exchange rate used for this proposal, that will simplify a lot of things down the road too, right? When it comes to reporting, now you always have a nice clean reference point close to where the data lives of what was the exchange rate at that point in time. And you don't have to go to the currency object in Salesforce and then cross reference, well, what day, what time was this
Yeah.
proposal built on, because the with advanced currency activated, your system is going to keep a record of when
Right.
currencies were on and off and when they changed. So yeah, definitely plenty to consider, but most of the time for purposes of the quoting solution, you can take a more simplistic approach. Could you automate it all the way out and make it so that anytime your company currency exchange rate changes, then the CPQ or the system updates as well? Yeah, absolutely, you could. 9 times out of 10, we find that just making it a recurring monthly task that somebody jumps in there and just updates the exchange rates, 5 minutes, you're done. Not a big deal.
Yeah. I'm looking at this chart and it's like your business dictates whether you need this or not. Like
Yes.
you're either selling a product that is highly dependent on the exchange rate. I'm trying to even consider what that would be. Or you're selling in countries where the exchange rate is highly volatile and you're aware of that, right? And so you've already incorporated that in your business like, oh, every day the exchange rate is going to change, my pricing is going to change. So then you'd want the automation, or I don't know, you support 100 different currencies and you update them once a month. Maybe you need to automate it because also like the risk of error in the manual update process is too high. But
That's
for
right.
most companies that we run into, they're supporting 6, 10 exchange rates that they update once a month, once a quarter, because they don't want too much volatility. Like you don't want to show somebody a price today and then it's different tomorrow. You want some stability in there. So we don't usually see the automation come into play, but it's
Right.
cool to know that it's out there,
It's
right?
definitely possible. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to use what you're talking about as a recent experience, from the CPQ's perspective, or CRM for Salesforce, controlling which currencies you want to expose to reps is also a good gating factor for not having to have maybe lengthy legal clauses or worry about really volatile exchange rates, right? You want to be flexible and, of course, allow reps to quote in whatever currency is needed, but there might be some that are not worth the hassle. So if you're able to restrict what currencies can be quoted, from Deal Hub, for example, that's easy to do because you can control what currencies are allowed. But you could go all the way back to the actual opportunity and just through the Salesforce field, let's say in the opportunities, here are the 6 currencies
Yes.
that we're going to allow for, and don't list out all 100 that are
Right.
possible. And that can save a lot as well.
I think this is important to dwell on, right? I had actually written a note about it. I'm glad you dove into it. It's, sometimes in sales ops, our job is to enable the sales team, right? And so when the sales team says I need X, we we try to deliver X.
Yes.
But then on there's that's the sales side of the title or revenue side of the title, and then there's the operations side of the title where you're also the defender of like what happens in the business. And it's a huge decision to sell in a currency, right? Because if you give somebody a quote for $100 and it doesn't matter where they're at in the world, you know that in 5 years at the end of that contract, if it's for 5 years, you're going to get $100, right?
Hmm.
But if you deliver it and you say it's in, I can't forget if one of those, really interesting currencies that we've never even heard of, like Zimbabwe or something. They may even use dollars, but like, um, if you say it's going to be 100 um, yen, then in 5 years, if the exchange rate has gone in half, and it used to be that you were going to get $1,000, now you're going to get only $500. So you've basically adopted all the risk of the currency exchange on the behalf of your business. Well, like everybody
Yeah.
weighs this all the time, right? I mean, you go into a market and you have to decide if it's important enough to sell in their currency.
That's right.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, but it introduces risk on your behalf. And so rather than just adding the currency factor, you have to think through all the business approvals and so forth. Yeah.
Yes. And the visual representation of it in the proposal is a
Yeah.
great transition, actually, because along with those decisions, to account for the fact that the exchange rate is going to change, and the order form is the first binding document. I mean, maybe it's obvious to a lot of people, but just simply adding that asterisk somewhere in the document that says these are all based on the exchange rate of today, and we
Yeah.
reanalyze what the rates are on a monthly, quarterly, whatever the cadence is basis, and that's going to be represented in your invoice, which is different than the
Yes.
sales order, right? That's where true like you need to be closer to the real time conversion is at the invoice level, not so much the sales order level.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so I wanted to use this as an opportunity to just also talk through creative ways to make it so that you could quote different currencies without having to really blow out your back end infrastructure to support it. So one organization we work with, uh, again, they do everything in U.S. dollars through mergers and acquisitions. There was a foreign entity that came into the fold, and so now multi-currency is a real thing. And so what we were able to do with them is make it so that anytime a different currency is used, we were able to either remove the currency symbol from different pricing tables, and maybe in the header of that pricing table simply say all values below are in US dollars, right? Or if it was a currency symbol that is very similar, let's say, to US dollars, we could just do a little asterisk at the bottom of everything, uh, stating what currency everything is represented in. So a couple of different approaches, and the benefit of that is they didn't have to go through a really lengthy exercise to figure out all the different fields, all the different proposal attributes and calculations that they need in both US dollars and localized currencies. It allows for them at the operation layer to have everything continue to be in US dollars. And it's only in the presentation of their proposal that they change it for customers. So I thought that was a really great solution. We were able to actually implement it in a matter of hours compared to what a typical multi-currency implementation takes, which would be potentially days, if not more, with testing and everything else, especially when it comes to reports. Um, so yeah, definitely always being creative is helpful as well. So I think I'm pretty sure that I touched on all the bullets I was thinking of. Anything else you can think of around currency today, Ryan?
No, I think you hit on all the major items. Are
Cool.
you going to show the article?
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, we're doing an open office hour session on it. So it's a topic we've been thinking about, talking about, and helping customers with quite a bit as well. And as you've seen recently, we like to host an office hours so that we can talk through things, get feedback, share our experiences, and typically we'll work on building some content out that's available for reference as well. And so just like what we've done with proposal attributes and other sessions, text lists, for example, we plan on doing the same around currency. So we already have a rough draft of an article that we've shared with a couple of organizations that needed to think through this whole multi-currency environment. And we'll be kind of finalizing that and getting that out to everyone as a resource that you'll be able to reference. Actually, I had some fun earlier this week, Ryan. I took this article and I pushed it through Notebook, the Google Notebook LLM, turning it into an AI generated podcast. It might be
Every
interesting for us
time,
to
every time I talk to Brenton, he mentions some new AI tool I've never heard of. Okay, so you generated a
a whole
podcast?
podcast around this topic. It could be fun to put that out there alongside like a PDF and everything, right? Just as
Yeah.
another takeaway.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so a lot of good resources, and the organizations we've provided this to, they were able to actually go deeper into their organization as they were making decisions and be very informed. So this is going to be a great resource to share with everyone.
Right. And did you write a lot of this document, or was it a lot written by Scott?
So I have to give Scott the credit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
Scott's
was the
the
brainchild behind
king
this.
of he's the king of writing, which is it's I'm thankful that he is the king of writing because I don't like to write. And but it takes a lot of thought and effort to put things like this into writing because you have to think of every different angle and rabbit trail and so forth. But then it
Yes.
becomes this resource that it's all about scale, right? Like if it's all in one person's head, then we have to have that one person talk to everybody at every company. And like you're saying, this currency discussion, it's that can of worms where one salesperson asked for a currency on a proposal. Well, now you need to have a uh, discussion with finance, with legal, with just sales and
Yep.
everybody, right? And this facilitates it, right? Or at least gives you the foundation to ask the right questions. So
That's right.
it's a cool resource.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to helping to push this one along. It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think then to wrap up today, again, I always like to also highlight the what's new. And within the past couple of weeks, Deal Hub has provided a new add-on management dashboard in Deal Hub, which is actually pretty convenient to see all the things that you can do and connect to Deal Hub. So as administrators, when you're in your environment, um, on the main admin page, there's a new tile available to you. Integration and add-ons. This is available regardless if you've upgraded to Deal Hub 2.0, and it exposes all the things that Deal Hub is capable of integrating to. I'm sure there's even more for custom integrations, right? But things like the SendGrid um, uh, add-on, making it so that when Deal Hub is pushing out emails it can come from your organization and not from the SaaS application, right? We've came across this because we were looking for how to change the connection to a sandbox environment. And so now all the CRM connections are defined here in this integrations panel. But you can connect to Slack, Gong. This is where all your SSOs are going to be available. So, this was a nice enhancement, I'll say, because it really makes it crystal clear. Hey, this is or isn't connected, or here's exactly where you need to go to make an update. So, yeah, again, kudos to the Deal Hub team, always adding great new functionality to the platform, and this is a welcome one.
Yeah, it's very slick. You can see they have plans to keep the list growing. I see they've tagged them as CRM, and so later when there's 50, there will be filtering and so forth. So yeah, it's
Yes,
really nice.
absolutely. All right. Well, I think for today, that's all the content I had. So thank you, Ryan, for coming along again. And till next time, I'm looking forward to the next office hour.
All right, awesome. Brenton, thanks for creating all the content and letting me hang out. All right,
Happy to. All right,
we'll
everyone.
see everybody later. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.